Hi there, my name's Alexander White. This week I've got a technique to share with you which is all about getting the right mic position when you're recording an instrument. How to do this quickly and also if you're under time constraints for your writing. I'm a music composer and I also record people in my studio here. And one of the things that I struggled with for quite a long time was how to write and arrange and get a song down, but also at the same time be recording the final part. So I'm not really doing a demo first and then a recording, because often you don't have time to do that when you're composing music for a project or something like that. And sometimes you just don't want to take that long over your own music. You kind of, would like what's happening in the moment to be the final part. The trouble is it can be really difficult to get the mic position for that, because when you're miking something up, you put the microphone in front of the instrument, and of course the only basis you have for where to put that microphone is how it sounds to you at the time. You move it around until you like the sound. And what I noticed is when I then started to layer subsequent instruments, I found that the mic position was wrong. It would either be too bassy or it would be too trebly, or it just wouldn't fit. It just wouldn't work. So what I wanted to show you today was just a little technique to solve this problem. And what we're going to start with is I'm going to go and record some acoustic guitar as one might, and I'm going to sort of put the mic in a position where I think it sounds fine for the recording. And then I'm going to show you the little technique which helps you get the right mic position. So let me just go and get this acoustic guitar recorded. You can watch me do that little bit, and then we'll talk about it and I'll show you what to do next. So we have our little acoustic guitar section that we recorded. Let's just have a quick listen back to it, and then we'll talk about the next step. So in solo, that's a lovely guitar recording. That could be a great start if it was a solo guitar. But what happens if it isn't? How do you know where to put the mic? Well, there isn't default position. So the first thing to get rid of, to make sure everybody knows, is that there isn't one particular place to put a microphone for different sounds. You don't just go, oh, well, I know I'm recording this kind of acoustic guitar sound, so I'll put the mic here. That's not how it works. It depends on the sonic content of the other instruments. So what I realized is one of the best ways to do this is to basically get a software bass and drums, or a software piano if that's going to be the thing, and just really simply play the chords underneath your pattern. So as you're writing, you can, broadly speaking, find the real simple root notes for the bass and a real simple groove. Keep it simple. You don't want to sort of go overwriting, because, well, that's sort of a waste of time for what we're doing. We're trying to work quickly. So what I'm going to do is just listen back to this part again, and all I'm going to do is get a drum kit and a bass guitar, and I'm going to play some simple stuff in just to give me a feel, and then we can see how that stacks up against those, the recorded part that we've already got. We'll see how it stacks up, and then we can go and adjust our mic position based on already having some of that space in our mix taken up by the bass and the drums. And this means that you will get a much, much better mic position. It will make more sense, and when you start to add your parts later, you've already considered your mic position in relation to all the other instruments that are sort of going to be coming in, whether it's drums and pianos and that kind of thing. But let's start by just adding bass and drums. So I'll just grab my little keyboard that's down here, and let me open up, first of all, a software instrument, and we'll call it bass. And now let's load up a bass guitar. I'm just going to use a little round wound bass sample. So let's just check this out. Okay, there's our bass sound. A little bit loud. I'll just turn it down so it's not as obnoxious. Now let's have a listen to the part. Okay, so I might do it up an octave. No, I'll stick with where we were. So now I'm simply going to record that in, set my click track and get my bass recorded. All right, now let's go and create another software track. Let's just duplicate that track and call this drums. And for the drums, let's go and find a basic acoustic kit. So we'll jump over to the drums here, grab, that'll do. Nice little drum kit. Oh, we better just check the volume, make sure the volume's not too loud yet. That should be okay. Okay, let's just go and do a simple drum line to go with this. That gives us something to work with there. I'm just going to do some quantization, but I'm not going to do it 100%. I'm just going to do it maybe 70% to give myself a little bit of room to work within. I find if you grid drums exactly on the grid, playing any instrument to that is a nightmare because it's so rigid that you've got no space to feel. You don't, the emotion just starts to drain from it. That's what I've always found. So let's just have a listen back to that with our current acoustic guitar. And I'll turn that acoustic guitar down a little bit, it's a little bit hot. And I think I'm just going to turn the drums up a touch. Now this stage is quite important to make sure that you're getting your levels right, because you want to try and really understand how much of the frequency range is going to be taken up by the drums and the bass. Now, of course, the drums and the bass we're going to be replacing with real drums and bass. And even though the sounds will be different, largely speaking, you're just looking for that low octave in the bass. You're looking for that low rumble of the kick drum. You're looking for that snare drum feel. You just want to have a ballpark idea of how your acoustic guitar is going to fit alongside some drums and bass to get this mic position really correct. Let's continue working. So now we can ask ourselves, in relation to the bass and the drums, could we find a better mic position? Now this isn't bad, there's nothing wrong with this mic position, but let's listen to the guitar in solo again. And with everything. It might be worth us trying the microphone a little bit further back just to see the difference that it makes. So I'll make a new take. I'm going to send some of this level to my headphones here, and let's hit record, and I'll go back into my recording booth in there, and we'll record the acoustic guitar just a little bit further off so we can see just how much difference it makes. Because I'm wondering if the acoustic guitar recording we currently have, although very pleasant, I wonder if it's a little bit too close and perhaps could do with being a little bit more diffuse to sit in with the potential drums and bass that we'll record later. Let's go try it. Okay, let's just have a little listen back to that. Now, of course, the part was slightly different. I'm improvising the ideas because really at this point, the focus isn't on the part itself. What the focus is on is the tone. So let's have a listen. Let's level match, because this one will probably be a touch I don't know, it's not too different. Of course, I played a bit heavier there. But let's just quickly jump between the two now and see if one or the other seems to fit better with the drums. Two very different kinds of textures. Both are fine, but I think that in the context of everything, the mic position being a little bit further back, angled slightly more towards the body of the guitar, gives us a slightly warmer sound, and the slightly more diffused sound feels like it would fit better as a rhythm part. And this is why having the bass and the drums in there is so important, because let's now go back to solo and listen to both guitar parts. Again, I'll just quickly back-to-back play them one after the other, with the original first. Interestingly, you probably choose version 1, the close mic version, if all you had was the acoustic guitar, because it sounds more immediate and up front. And this one does sound a little bit more diffuse. It sounds a bit weaker, but it's much smoother. The sound is actually more pleasant to listen to, but you might feel vulnerable and go, oh my God, but what if that just sounds too diffuse in the mix? This way, by just adding that simple bass and drums, software instrument, while you're trying to capture your main guitar, this way you really get a good idea of how much frequency range it's filling up, whether it matters, how far the mic is, because so much disappears into the context of a mix. So many noises or room sounds and all these things, but without doing this sort of process, if you were to just go for your acoustic guitar part and just hope that the parts that you record later are going to fit, you may end up with a problem of going, oh my God, I just mic'd my acoustic guitar too close or the other one too distant. It really helps to do this. So let's listen to the one we just recorded again. We'll listen to, well, in fact, let's do another A-B. So we'll listen to version 1 against the drums and bass and version 2 and just see again which one we prefer. Here we go. You see what I mean about version 2 seeming just a little bit smoother? Both of these acoustic guitar parts you could probably wrangle into working, but why have to worry about low passing any low end on the guitar because you've put it too close? Or why worry about having to handle some brightness in the 4K territory when actually by playing it alongside some drums and bass, you notice you've got a much wider range of guitar sounds that you can use that won't trouble you too much. And as a final note, most of the time, when you've got your final mix, distance really doesn't matter nearly as much as you think it does. It just helps glue the guitar in place. You don't have to close mic everything. It's just that close miking feels more exciting when you're recording in solo. So I just thought that would be really helpful, just as an idea for when you're writing, but your writing kind of has to also be the final take. You know, you're kind of writing for real recording. An absolutely brilliant mix engineer on one of the tutors on Pure Mix said a brilliant thing on one of the videos he did, which was never record anything as rough. Meaning, even if it's a rough part, always just make sure you're recording it nicely, because you never know when you're going to want to use it. The worst thing you can do in the world is record a part without spending any time on mic position or something like that, without just making sure it's really gonna work, just to find out it was the best take you did. And then you're stuck with a crummy sound on a part that was actually brilliant. And that's just depressing. You might even end up using the sound that's not as good, because performance always trumps technology every single time. It's always much better to have the better part with the poorer recording than it is the other way around. If you are interested in learning more about mixing and engineering, please head to my website, recordwithalex.com. I've got a free mixing guide there for you, and you will be getting a ton of other resources from me about recording and mixing very soon. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it's been helpful, and I'll catch up with you on another video very soon.